The Awakening of Titans. The observation deck of Earth's orbital defense station, Aegis Prime, offered a view that few humans would ever forget. Commander Nora Vance stood motionless before the massive viewport, her artificial right eye scanning the void with calculated precision. 3 years had passed since the Velhari had annihilated the Mars colony, but the memory burned in her mind like a fresh wound. 70 million lives extinguished in less than 6 hours. Not conquered, consumed. The evacuation of Europa Station is complete, reported Admiral Chen, his holographic form flickering beside her. That brings our remaining population to just under 4 billion. We're running out of places to hide, Commander. Vance's organic eye remained fixed on the distant stars while her synthetic one processed tactical overlays. Hiding isn't survival, Admiral. It's just a slower form of extinction. The station itself was a marvel of desperate engineering. Quantum-shielded walls capable of withstanding weapons that could crack moons, computational systems that processed more data per second than all of pre-war Earth combined. A final bastion built not for victory, but to buy time. A young officer approached, digital tablet trembling slightly in her hands. Commander, Project Prometheus is ready for final neural integration. Director Okafor says it's unprecedented. Admiral Chen's expression darkened. That project isn't just dangerous, Vance. It's changing what it means to be human. The Velhari didn't leave us much choice in the matter, Vance replied, finally turning from the stars. Send a shuttle. I want to see it personally. The journey to Luna Shipyard Delta took 3 hours. Nestled within a massive crater on the dark side of the moon, the facility was invisible to conventional detection methods. As the shuttle descended through layers of quantum camouflage fields, Vance caught her first glimpse of humanity's final hope. The Prometheus didn't look like a conventional warship. Its hull seemed to shift and breathe, a dark metallic surface that reflected light in ways that defied physics. Not quite solid, not quite energy. Something in between that made the eye want to slide away from it. Beautiful, isn't she? Director Okafor materialized beside Vance as she stepped onto the observation platform. The scientist's dark skin was webbed with luminescent neural augmentation paths, technology reverse-engineered from captured Velhari artifacts. Though she is perhaps no longer the appropriate pronoun. Explain, Vance demanded, her artificial eye scanning deep into the ship's exotic structure. Prometheus isn't just a vessel, Commander. It's an extension of consciousness. Your consciousness, specifically. Okafor gestured toward the ship with reverence. Conventional pilots can't react quickly enough to utilize the quantum displacement drive. Even our most advanced AIs lack the intuitive understanding needed for the weapon systems. So you built a ship that needs a human brain. Vance's voice remained neutral, but her organic hand clenched involuntarily. We built a ship that becomes an extension of a human mind, corrected Okafor. The neural lattice will sync with your augmentations, creating a symbiotic relationship that transcends traditional command structures. You won't pilot Prometheus. You will be Prometheus. The briefing room was sterile and white, a stark contrast to the shifting darkness of the ship outside. Holographic displays showed the progression of the Velhari invasion, a methodical consumption of human outposts that had pushed civilization back to its homeworld in less than 5 years. Their technology exceeds ours by centuries, explained Admiral Chen, addressing the small group of military and scientific personnel. Conventional weapons are useless against their quantum shields. Conventional tactics mean nothing to beings that can calculate probabilities across multiple dimensions. Which is why we needed an unconventional solution, continued Okafor. The Prometheus utilizes technology we barely understand, reverse-engineered from Velhari artifacts and enhanced through methods that would have been deemed theoretical impossibilities just years ago. A 3-dimensional schematic of the ship appeared, showing systems that seemed to blur the line between technology and biology. The quantum displacement drive allows instantaneous repositioning through probability manipulation. Okafor pointed to a pulsing core at the ship's center. The phase cannons don't destroy matter. They retroactively ensure it never existed in the first place. And the neural integration system. She paused, glancing at Vance, allows for tactical decisions to be made and executed at speeds that defy conventional time constraints. What's the survival probability? Vance asked bluntly. A young analyst cleared his throat. Our simulations give the Prometheus a 12.4% chance of success against the Valheri main fleet. Better than zero, Vance said, rising to her feet. When do we begin? The neural integration chamber resembled a medical operating theater, albeit one designed by someone with a questionable grasp on conventional reality. Vance lay suspended in a translucent gel, while technicians attached countless filaments to her existing neural augmentations. The process will feel disorienting, Okafor warned, her voice seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere. Your consciousness will expand beyond normal human parameters. The distinction between your thoughts and the ship's systems will blur. Will I still be me when it's finished? Vance asked. Okafor's pause lasted a fraction too long. You'll be more than you are now. The integration began with a flash of incomprehensible sensation. Vance's consciousness expanded in ways her human mind had no framework to process. She was simultaneously in the chamber and throughout the ship, feeling the cold embrace of space against the hull, sensing the quantum potential in every atom around her, processing information through systems that operated outside conventional physics. For one terrifying moment, Nora Vance ceased to exist as a singular entity, fragmenting across a vast new consciousness that threatened to dissolve her humanity entirely. Then, through sheer force of will, she reasserted herself, not by rejecting the expansion, but by embracing it, ordering it, making it an extension of her human mind rather than a replacement for it. When she opened her eyes, both organic and synthetic, she was still in the integration chamber, but she was also the Prometheus. She could feel the ship's systems as intimately as her own limbs, could process tactical information at speeds that made her previous augmented capabilities seem primitive. Integration successful, she said, her voice overlapping with subtle harmonics that hadn't been there before. Prometheus is ready. The Valheri scout fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system exactly as predicted. 6 crystalline vessels that defied conventional understanding of spacecraft design. Seemingly fragile, these advanced scouts had each been responsible for the annihilation of entire human battle groups in previous encounters. Conventional forces are in position, Admiral Chen reported from the command center on Earth, though I doubt they'll provide more than a momentary distraction. Vance didn't respond immediately. Through Prometheus, she was analyzing the Valheri ships on levels beyond normal sensor capability, seeing the quantum probability fields that made them nearly invulnerable, understanding the way they manipulated space-time to achieve their devastating attacks. Their attack pattern is evolving, she finally said. They're learning from previous encounters, adapting. Can you counter? Chen asked, tension evident in his voice. Vance smiled, a gesture that looked eerily inhuman on her partially augmented face. Prometheus doesn't counter. It rewrites the rules. The first engagement lasted less than 30 seconds by conventional time measurement. To the observers on Earth, it appeared as though the Prometheus simply flickered, and suddenly 2 Valheri scouts were gone. Not destroyed, simply erased from existence, as though they had never been there at all. The remaining scouts immediately shifted formation, their crystalline structures pulsing with energy as they attempted to lock onto the human vessel. Their weapons, devastatingly effective against conventional targets, seemed to pass through spaces where Prometheus had been microseconds before. Target lock, Vance announced, though she was now speaking more to herself than to any external command structure. Through Prometheus, she could see pathways of probability, could calculate and execute maneuvers that existed partially outside normal spacetime. The phase cannons fired, not beams of energy in the conventional sense, but targeted disruptions in the fundamental nature of reality. Where they struck, the Valheri ships didn't explode or disintegrate. Instead, they underwent a transformation more profound than mere destruction, a retroactive negation that rippled backward through causality. In 6 minutes, the entire scout fleet was gone. "My God," whispered Admiral Chen, staring at the sensor readings. "What have we created?" Vance felt the question on multiple levels simultaneously, as words spoken over a communication channel, as emotional resonance transmitted through the neural network, as a philosophical query that echoed through the expanded consciousness she now shared with Prometheus. "We've created survival," she answered simply, "and the Velhari have just learned to fear humanity." As the Prometheus returned to Luna Base, its hull shifting with potentials that hurt the eye to observe directly, the quantum communications array detected a massive surge of activity from the direction of the Velhari home systems. The main fleet was mobilizing. "They're coming," Vance announced, her consciousness already calculating probabilities and tactical scenarios at speeds no unaided human mind could comprehend. All of them. For the first time in 3 years, humanity had struck back. For the first time since the war began, the Velhari had lost. The reckoning of gods. Across 27 light-years of space, in the crystalline spires of the Velhari command nexus, a wave of incomprehensible emotion rippled through the collective consciousness. Supreme Archon Cyric, whose existence spanned 12 separate physical manifestations linked through quantum entanglement, experienced something the Velhari had not known in 17 millennia of expansion. Doubt. "Verification confirmed," announced the voice of analysis, a subconsciousness specialized in data interpretation. "Scout fleet entirely nullified. Enemy vessel utilized technology that intersects with precursor principles." The mention of the precursors sent another ripple through the collective. The ancient race whose artifacts had formed the foundation of Velhari ascension, whose warnings had set the Velhari on their path of preemptive extinction against potentially threatening species. "Impossible," declared Cyric through his primary manifestation. "The humans are primitive. Their development timeline indicated at least 3 centuries before quantum consciousness integration. Evidence suggests acceleration," countered the voice of analysis. "Further evidence suggests they have accessed and repurposed precursor technology we left in their system." The irony was not lost on the collective. The very artifacts they had used to monitor human development had become the seeds of unexpected resistance. "Deploy the main fleet," ordered Cyric. "This deviation cannot be permitted." Back in Earth's solar system, Commander Nora Vance struggled with the expanding boundaries of her consciousness. Each day integrated with Prometheus pushed her further from conventional human experience. She perceived reality through quantum probability fields, experienced time as a malleable construct rather than a linear progression. "Your neural patterns are showing signs of strain," Director Okafor observed, studying the holographic representation of Vance's brain activity. "The integration was never meant to be permanent." "Nothing about our situation was meant to be," Vance replied, her voice resonating with subtle harmonics that seemed to echo from elsewhere in space-time. "The Velhari main fleet has mobilized. 700 ships, including 3 command vessels. They'll reach our system in 29 hours. Admiral Chen paced the briefing room, his aged face etched with the burden of command. "Even with Prometheus, those odds are impossible." "Impossibility is a limitation of perspective," Vance said, the words emerging simultaneously from her physical form and from speakers throughout the room. "Prometheus has been analyzing the quantum signature of the Velhari weapon systems. There's a pattern, a purpose beyond mere conquest." The holographic display shifted, showing complex mathematical equations and probability cascades. "They're not just eliminating us. They're erasing any trace that we ever existed, retroactively removing our causality from the universe." "Why?" demanded Chen. "What possible threat could we pose to a civilization with their capabilities?" Vance's artificial eye pulsed with internal light. "That's what Prometheus has been calculating. The answer lies in the future, not our present. The Velhari are eliminating civilizations based on probability projections of what we might become. Okeffer's eyes widened with realization. They're afraid. Precisely. Vance nodded. And Prometheus has given them reason to be. The preparation for humanity's last stand transformed Earth's orbital defense grid into a hub of frenetic activity. Conventional warships, hopelessly outmatched but crewed by volunteers who refused to surrender, moved into defensive formations. Civilian evacuation ships prepared to scatter toward distant star systems, carrying the seeds of human civilization should Earth fall. Meanwhile, Vance retreated deeper into her integration with Prometheus, pushing the boundaries of their shared consciousness until the distinction between woman and vessel became increasingly theoretical. If this fails, Chen said during their final briefing, we need contingency plans. There are no contingencies, Vance replied. Either Prometheus rewrites the rules of this confrontation, or humanity joins the list of species the Velhari have erased from existence. The main Velhari fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, a crystalline armada that filled space with geometries that seemed to reject conventional physics. At their center loomed the three command vessels, each the size of a small moon, pulsing with energies that distorted space-time around them. They've deployed an attack configuration, reported Earth's Defense Command, reading weapons charge across all vessels. Vance, now fully merged with Prometheus, perceived the Velhari fleet as intersecting probability fields rather than physical objects. Through the expanded consciousness of the neural integration, she could see the patterns of their attack strategies unfolding across multiple potential futures simultaneously. All forces maintain position, she ordered, her voice transmitting across all human communication channels. Prometheus will engage alone. What followed defied description in conventional military terms. The Prometheus moved through space-time in ways that conventional physics deemed impossible, not merely faster than light travel, but existing in multiple potential locations simultaneously, collapsing those potentials only when attacking. The Velhari adaptive defense systems, which had effortlessly predicted and countered human tactics for years, found themselves confronting a vessel that operated outside the parameters of predictable behavior. The phase cannon struck with devastating precision, erasing Velhari ships from causality itself. Yet the overwhelming numbers of the enemy fleet began to tell. Probability fields collapsed around Prometheus as Velhari weapons found their mark, sending cascading damage through systems that existed partially outside conventional reality. Hull integrity compromised in 17 probability streams, Vance announced, feeling the damage as though it were injuries to her own body, rerouting consciousness through undamaged quantum pathways. Inside the neural integration chamber, her physical form convulsed as blood trickled from her nose and ears. The strain of maintaining quantum consciousness while taking damage threatened to tear her mind apart. Targeting Velhari command vessels, she gasped, pushing Prometheus through a series of reality-defying maneuvers that brought them into firing position against the massive crystalline structures at the fleet's heart. What the observers on Earth witnessed next would become the foundation of humanity's new mythology. The Prometheus, trailing energy from multiple breaches in its reality-warping hull, executed an impossible spiral through the heart of the Velhari formation. The phase cannons fired not as weapons, but as mathematical proofs that rewrote the very laws of probability around the command vessels. The effect cascaded through the quantum entanglement links that bound the Velhari collective consciousness. Suddenly, the attack strategies that had guided their perfect formation dissolved into chaos. Ship crashed into ship as conflicting commands tore through their unified purpose. They're fragmenting, Admiral Chen whispered, watching the tactical display with awe. Their collective consciousness is breaking apart. Vance drove Prometheus deeper into the heart of the fracturing fleet, targeting the nexus points where the Velhari command structure still maintained coherence. Each strike was precisely calculated not to destroy, but to introduce mathematical impossibilities into the Velhari collective thought. Viruses of contradiction that spread through their quantum communication network. The battle lasted 17 hours by Earth's time measurement. When it ended, the remnants of the Velhari fleet retreated in disarray. not a tactical withdrawal, but a fundamental fracturing of purpose and identity. Prometheus drifted back toward Earth, its hull fluctuating between states of existence, systems failing across multiple probability streams. Inside the neural integration chamber, Vance lay motionless, blood seeping from her eyes and ears as her consciousness struggled to disentangle itself from the damaged ship. Her neural patterns are destabilizing, Okafor reported urgently as medical teams rushed to extract her. The integration went too deep. She's losing the boundary between herself and Prometheus. For Vance, reality had become a fluid concept, shifting between her human perspective and the vast quantum consciousness she had shared with the ship. As technicians worked to sever the neural connections, she experienced something beyond human comprehension: the attention of entities that existed outside conventional causality. They had been watching. Ancient conscious beings who had scattered warnings across the galaxy about their own downfall. The precursors whose technology had been weaponized by the Velhari and then repurposed by humanity in desperation. As her consciousness finally separated from Prometheus, Vance understood the truth. The Velhari had misinterpreted the precursor warnings. The threat wasn't from emerging civilizations. It was from a future where consciousness transcended physical limitation entirely, rendering concepts like warfare and conquest meaningless. 3 weeks later, as Earth celebrated its unexpected salvation, representatives from 17 previously unknown alien civilizations appeared at the edge of the solar system. They came not as conquerors, but as diplomats, drawn by the quantum ripples that Prometheus had sent echoing through the fabric of space-time. "They're calling it the Vance Protocol," Admiral Chen explained as he visited her hospital room. "Apparently, what you did with Prometheus didn't just defeat the Velhari. It sent a signal that's been interpreted as an invitation to dialogue." Vance, her body fragile but recovering, managed a weak smile. Her artificial eye had been replaced, the neural augmentation scaled back to prevent further integration damage. Yet something of her expanded consciousness remained, a perspective that transcended conventional human limitations. "The Velhari misunderstood the message," she said softly. "The future they feared wasn't one of conflict, but of transcendence. They thought they were preventing a threat, but they were actually preventing their own evolution." The diplomatic summit that followed established humanity as an unexpected nexus in the complex web of galactic politics. The Prometheus technology, carefully restricted to prevent the dangerous levels of integration that had nearly cost Vance her identity, became the foundation for a new understanding of consciousness itself. The Velhari, their collective fractured into competing philosophies by Prometheus's attack, gradually rejoined galactic society, not as conquerors, but as scholars seeking to understand the true meaning of the precursor artifacts they had misinterpreted for millennia. And Commander Nora Vance, forever changed by her communion with Prometheus, became humanity's first ambassador to the wider galaxy, a living bridge between conventional existence and the quantum consciousness that waited in humanity's future. "We didn't just survive," she told the assembled representatives of Earth's nations. "We discovered what we're capable of becoming." The Velhari feared that potential. Others have been waiting for it. And now we get to decide what path we take. As humanity took its first steps into a galactic community it never knew existed, the damaged hull of Prometheus was preserved as both monument and warning, a reminder that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in the weapons it could build, but in its capacity to redefine the very rules of existence when pushed to the edge of extinction.